first round, let me allow our speakers to introduce themselves. Maybe so you may be in the middle here. Professor Park, you are slim, so you should sit here. Okay, so maybe you can introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Ignesjz Kemalawarta. My company is from SriNarula in Indonesia. And then I will present about the foreign ownership in Indonesia, including everything which is have a relationship with Asian tax, and then anything that have important aspect for foreign ownership.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Eric Park from Korea. I'm the president of the Korea Real Estate Service Development Association. For this event, I'd like to thank for the doctors so far, because for the foreign investment, it's quite very important to understand that the cultural background, because he organized this event to understand that the different countries of the cultural background to invest in real estate. So I'm sure that this event is quite important to the foreign investors. And also I learned a lot from his presentations. Every country has a different cultural background to invest to invest in real estate. So I'm sure that this event is quite a very valuable event. So I'd like to thank again.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Next, please.
Yeah, I'm Rey Cartojano from the Philippines. So quickly, what we can share in the Philippines is more of regulation, no? Because in the country we have 5 professional licensing requirements for real estate. So you have salespersons, brokers, appraisers, consultants. So it's something unique for other Asian countries, because we're the only country in the ASEAN region with this type of licensing practice. No, probably we can share that to you in the course of the exchanges.
Sawadee krab. I am Pornthep, SriNarula. Paul, my nickname. I'm 35 years in real estate as an agent, broker, investor, developer, and a founding vice president of FIABCI Thailand.
Thank you. My name is Clayton Wade. I've been in real estate now this is my 40th year. I've been in Thailand for over 30 years. I'm a member of the NAR in the United States. I'm a certified international property specialist and an instructor for the CIPS. I am very proud to be a board member of FIABCI here in Thailand. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Nigel Cornick. I'm British by birth, Australian by passport, and I've been in Thailand on and off for quite a number of years. I'm a chartered surveyor by profession, but I've had many different types of exposure to real estate over my 50 years in the market. So I'm probably the oldest one here in that regard.
Really?
Yeah.
You look young.
Good morning. My name is Kian. You can call me Tan if you want. That's my surname. And I'm the president of the Malaysian Institute of Estate Agent in Malaysia. And I'm also the vice president of the FIABCI in Malaysia as well. And I used to serve in the Board of Valuers, Appraisers, Estate Agent and Property Managers in Malaysia, which is the regulatory body in Malaysia. So I used to work with this board, and probably I can share a little bit of in terms of licensing and regulatory. I was also, I used to practice in Melbourne, Australia as well. I have my license in Australia, so probably I can share a little bit because we deal a lot with foreign buyers when I was in Australia for about 8 years there. So hopefully with this session here, we can share a lot of mutual things or how we can improve cross-border transaction among the countries in the region. Thank you.
You are the youngest president here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Philip Low. I come from Hong Kong, and I have been practicing in development process from architectural design, town planning, and also some real estate business. But I call myself as a practitioner, not a specialist, because I have some experience, some knowledge about Thailand, but I must say that most of the time it's confusing. But even in Hong Kong, we have quite rigid and well-developed control over the area. But I would like to share my experience today with all of you about the development process and real estate business, as far as I know. Thank you.
He is my senior, but look young also. And you may not be able to guess my colleagues from Indonesia. Today is his birthday. Happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday.
And now turned to 50 years old, right? 23. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so now we will have a question, one by one question. Okay, for the first, this is something about the understanding of law and regulations on foreign property occupation, buying properties in our each country. As I said at the beginning, that in some countries, as a foreigners, you may be able to stay at that country, say for 1 or 2 years. Like if I go to China, I stay there for 1 or 2 years. I'm entitled to buy a condominiums. Like in China. What about in your country? Is there any regulation like this that you have to stay for a certain period before you buy, or you just go there and buy it immediately? Any restriction in your country or not? Hong Kong, any restriction?
In Hong Kong, there is no restriction from buying the property from overseas, from foreign country, except very limited countries. But in general, you can buy the property in Hong Kong. But once you committed to buy the properties, the land and the units, and you will enter to some certain legal obligation. That is, as an individual, I mean the legal individual as a person or a company, then you will be subject to tax in one way or another. So the whole system in this business is interrelated.
I see. But for the tax, we will discuss later on. But any other restriction? What about in the Philippines? Any restriction?
Yeah, in the Philippines, there's no residency restriction. Now, even if you're not residing in the Philippines, you can acquire land in the Philippines. You can acquire condominium in the Philippines, but as mentioned by Dr. Sopon, there's a ceiling 40%. Question on residency, even if you're abroad, you can acquire property in the Philippines. But if it pertains to land, there's a prohibition. No? Foreigners cannot acquire lands in the Philippines, except if you're organized as a corporation, which foreigners can own up to 40% of that corporation.
See, any other restriction from other country? No, should be no problem. No? So it is good luck. So you should buy property in Indonesia, in the USA, in Australia, in any places, and also in Hong Kong, Korea. What happened?
I'd like to explain about Korea. Korea, I think, the most able to invest by foreigner, not only just individual but also the corporation, because not like other countries, there is no restrictions to buy a condominium and also as well as the land. So it's almost as the American. It's, most of countries, they are not allowed to buy that by foreigners, I mean, the land, but Korea, you can buy that land. Not only just land, but there's a condominium, also individual, detached houses, whatever. There are restrictions for the Koreans. That applies to the foreigners. So there is no discrimination. There is no barriers for the foreigners to buy that just real estate in Korea. That's a very advantage to invest.
Yes, sir.
Yes, in Indonesia, there is no restriction for buying property. Yeah? And then the tax is still low, 5%, comparing with other countries, which is 60%. Yeah? But something that should be considered is there is several kind of permit. Yeah? For example, first is permit for stay is just only 60 days to 90 days. Yeah? And then limited stay permit. Yeah? We call kitas itu for 90 days. And permanent permit visa for 3 years. Then now government provide the new regulation for the second home visa. That is about 5 to 5 years stay. Yeah.
Mr. Tan, what is your comment?
In Malaysia, we back to your question, Dr. Sapon. In Malaysia, foreigners do not have to live in Malaysia for a number of years. They can just walk into Malaysia and buy a property. The only thing I think a lot of country has similarity is the types of properties, the price, and the location. That will be the difference. Whether what kind of property can you buy, where is the location, and the types of properties, whether it's a land, commercial buildings, residential. But in Malaysia, we have a separate program we call My Malaysia Second Home, where you can apply for a long visa stay in Malaysia. That will have certain conditions. If you buy a property, that visa, Malaysia Second Home visa, allows you to buy property in the easier way. So that is the only difference we have. So whether you are coming in as a foreigner or you're coming in here to have a visa stay, so that will play a different factor as well. Yeah.
I see. So let me move to the second one. Is there any buying tax? Yeah, the tax or stamp duty when you buy. As I tell you that in Singapore, they said that 60% if you buy for market prices. But in many countries, there is no such a tax. Is there any stamp duty in Indonesia, sir?
We call BPHTB or transfer tax, 5%.
Transfer 5%. I see. What about in Hong Kong or somewhere?
In Hong Kong, we have stamp duty, and that is limited amount. Is you can say is neglectable, but there are some tax you have to pay to the government. Like if you own the property as an individual, the value, the amount that you gain either from rental, and then you will add that to your individual income tax. And there are some calculation, how can you deduct the expenditure for that? And then you come to the personal income, and then you pay the amount. But it's quite open, that is, everybody can search from that. And as a company, and you have to pay the business tax. So in that way, it's indirect. It's not a direct sales tax or the property tax.
What about in any of you?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in the Philippines, you for transferring properties, you pay 3 types of taxes. Now we have the capital gains at 6%. You have documentary stamp tax at 1.5%. Then transfer tax 0.5%. So it does not differentiate whether you're a Filipino or a foreigner. The same taxes you pay. Now again, 6% capital gains, 1.5 doc stamps, and 0.5 transfer tax. So there's also value-added tax that you have to pay depending on the nature of the property, whether the property is an ordinary or capital asset. So it does not differentiate whether you're a foreigner or a Filipino, the same type of taxes that you'll be paying.
See. Yes, sir.
Yeah, for the Korea, Korea does not have access all the taxes or stamp duties, especially targeting for the foreign buyers. So in Korea, so as I told you, just most of the regulation and laws and the practice are not restricted to the foreigners. It's as same as the local people, just like Koreans. So not only just the ownership, but also tax and also other the regulation. Really, there is no restrictions for the foreigners. It's really equal to the local people. It's very good to invest in Korea.
Yeah. So go to Korea, please. So far as we heard, every countries are very welcome. So next time our Myanmar people can go to many places. But July come to Bangkok first.
But the Thailand is much open to the foreigner to invest in terms of that, just not only just the investment, but there's a cultural understanding. Just one thing difficult to invest in the Korea is a little bit people, that the government also not only the people do not open to the foreign investors. So Thailand is much open-minded for the foreign investors.
Professor, do you have a second house in Thailand? Yet?
Not yet.
Oh, coming.
Yeah, coming.
Yeah. Mr. Clayton, wait, you want to say something?
Yes, in the United States, there are no special purchasing taxes put upon foreigners, no stamp duty. You can literally fly from anywhere in the world and walk off the airplane in the United States with your passport, with proof of funds, and something showing where you're staying in the country, and you can purchase a property that day before you arrive home. All the same taxes that citizens of America are faced with, so are foreigners. So there's no additional taxes or anything at all.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Yes, you have.
That I have shared the detail of the taxation in Indonesia for property ownership. Yeah. So maybe you can ask to the committee. So
Yes, sir.
I divided into two. So buyer tax. Yeah. Buyer tax is included the land and building, and then land transfer tax, and then value added tax, then income tax, then deed for purchase fee deed, ownership transfer fee, and then non-tax statement revenue. So the whole tax in one, for example, 5 billion rupiah, it costs about 1 billion rupiah. So about 20% for all kind of tax in Indonesia. But for the transfer tax is only 5%. Yeah. Then Indonesia has three potential sites for the foreigner. First is Bali. Bali is very big transaction of the housing from China and Australia, yeah, and now from Russia also. Then Jakarta as a capital city. Then three is in Batam. Batam is the new region that very tight
by
with-
Singapore.
with Singapore. Then so many support from Singapore to developing Batam. So Batam also the number 3 of the foreign ownership ranking in Indonesia. Yeah.
I see. So that is the information from Mr. Ignesjz. So Mr. Ignesjz also kindly prepare a PowerPoint for us also. So I will ask for his permission to give you the PowerPoint so that you can have a look, closer look later. So allow me to ask one another question is that, say in Thailand, foreigners buy a house at around 6 million baht per unit. So if in the case of Malaysia, how much normally you buy a house in Malaysia, sir?
Okay, in Malaysia, if you are talking about the tax and stamp duty, there are 3 types of tax or stamp duty. Number 1 is when you purchase the property, you have to pay a stamp duty. So that stamp duty for foreigner is flat 4%, right? That is payable to the federal government. The second type of tax is when you dispose, you sell a property. In Malaysia, we call it a real property gain tax. So if you sell a property within the 5 years, you will have to pay tax if you make any profit from the property. So the government deter you from speculation and selling. So for foreigners, there's always a tax. After 5 years, whatever gain you make, you have to pay of the 10% of the gain that you make. Right? For of course, if you sell later, there will be more. So this buying of a property and selling of a property tax, you pay to the federal government. Now, the third tax is we call the annual property tax. Because in Malaysia, property, we have 13 states in Malaysia. So the property that is for the annual property tax is payable to the state government. So every state has a different rate. So for example, Kuala Lumpur is considered a federal state, and we have Petaling Jaya is in the Selangor state. They have different state government.
I see.
So that annual property tax, sometimes we call it as an assessment or a council rate that you pay to the local government. So as a foreigner, you are also required to pay that to maintain the property. Right? So of course, the last tax is the income tax. If you make any gain from the rental income, right, you are still subject to the income tax. So if you talk about the tax, these are the types of tax we are looking at. Yeah.
I see. Thank you, sir. So in the case of US dollar, if you want to buy a condominium in Jakarta, in the case of Jakarta, what should be the price? How much money we should bring so that we can buy an ample house and ample condominium in Jakarta, sir?
Yeah, in Indonesia there is about 10 region. Yeah, the price is different. The highest is in Jakarta. For example, for the landed housing is 5 billion rupiah or 333 US dollar, and for apartment or 3 billion rupiah or 200 US dollar. Yeah, and then for the cheapest is in the Riau and other region is about 1 billion rupiah or US dollar 66. Yeah. But Jakarta is the Jakarta, West Java, East Java, and Bali. Jakarta, West Java, East Java, and Bali is the highest parts for the minimum. Yeah, minimum 5 billion. But people can sell above that price. That is the minimum price to sell to the foreigner, because we have also a middle income housing that foreigner cannot buy. Yeah? So minimum that for the foreigner. In Jakarta is the highest, which can 5 billion rupiah or 330 US dollar.
I see. Yeah. Oh, for your information, if you want cinemas to develop any project in Phnom Penh, in Yangon, you can discuss with our speaker here, because they are international investor as well. So let me ask, in the case of India, what is at least how much we should bring so that we can buy a condominium in India? There should be no restriction, but at least how much we should buy, sir?
Let me first share the first question. Being a foreign passport holder, you can buy property in India only if you are residents of India. With a minimum stay of 182 days, you are working in India, or you have a business in India, your minimum stay 182 days, you can buy property in India. If you are staying outside India, you cannot buy property in India.
Oh, good.
And there are restrictions. Some countries cannot buy property in India. I can share the countries, total 11 countries. Total 11 countries not allowed to buy property.
Thailand also, sir?
No, Thailand not included in the 11 countries. The smaller countries around India, because India is overpopulated, we don't want all those smaller countries to come in India, like Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and some political issue like Iran, China, North Korea cannot buy properties in India. Yes, yes. So these are the restrictions. Yes. And with regard to tax and other expenditure in buying property in India, the buyer pays equal to what the local pay. There is nothing special charged to being a foreign investor. The stamp duty is between 5 to 8%. A lot more tax on capital gain. A capital gain tax is short-term and long-term capital gain tax. Below 2 years, you're holding below 2 years is considered as a short-term. Holding more than 2 years is considered as a long-term. Holding less than 2 years, there is a capital gain tax of 30%.
Wow, a lot.
Yes, a lot.
30%.
Yes.
Wow.
Holding more than 2 years, there is a capital gain tax of only 20%.
Oh.
And how the capital gain tax is paid, something new, very, very different from Thailand. The buyer will deduct 20% or 30% the amount paid to the seller. It's like deduction of withholding tax. Yes, something like deduction of holding tax. The buyer will deduct. The buyer is buyer's responsibility to submit tax to the government.
I see.
Yes. So the buyer will deduct at the time of paying for buying the property, 20 or 30%. Yes.
So for Myanmar people, don't worry. In Thailand, we pay capital gain tax based on the government assets value, very low. Very small amount of money. So tomorrow, buy now.
Okay. And one additional information, the foreign passport holder, even residents of India, cannot buy farmland, cannot buy agricultural land, cannot buy farmhouse, can buy residential, can buy commercial, can buy developed plot. Yes.
I see.
Yes. Yes.
What about in the Philippines, sir?
Yeah. Myanmar. Yeah. Nearly half come from Myanmar.
Oh, very informative.
Yeah, what I interested in answering is yung pricing, no? Because in the Philippines we have the central Metro Manila region, which accounts for more than 50% of the real estate transactions. So the question is, how much normally would it cost you to buy, for instance, one room, no, or 25 to 30 square meter property? Not very expensive. You have 60 to 70,000 US dollars, no, for that small area. So for the luxury units, it can go to 100 to 200 US dollars. No? So, but the luxury market in the Philippines is quite very strong. So we what is weak right now is the market from 70 to 150,000 US dollars. But those selling luxury 200,000 up, still very strong, no? As far as sales are concerned.
See. So now we move to the property tax, annual property tax. Say as in the US, maybe that is a very standard one. What about in the US?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, yes, the annual property tax in the United States, like many of the regulations, is done state by state, and it can vary greatly. But the average over the entire nation is $4,062 per year per property. That represents a tax of about 0.87%.
Less than 1%.
Yeah. And it can go in some states as high as almost 10%, and others as low as
Well, where is 10% so that we won't move there?
my bog.
He didn't want to tell us.
And it can be as low as 0.3% in some of the other
God,
places.
maybe Alaska. Too far away. What about in the case of Malaysia, sir? Property tax.
Yeah, the
Annual property
annual property tax we pay to two government, I mean to the state government. One we call it like a council rate, and the other one we call it a quick rent, is a lease rate to the state government. If you talk about percentage, I think is very similar to states, is below 1%, probably 0.5 to 0.3% of the property value. So in Malaysia, they change every 4 years. So the rate that you pay is fixed for the 4 years, and within the 4 years, they cannot, no, sorry, 5 years, not four. They cannot review the rate. So it says, but the rate is done every 5 years. Now, of course, I think that rate also depends of the type of properties, whether it's an agricultural land, residential, commercial. So your rate is based on the value of your property. Yeah.
How about Australia, sir?
Well, you've got 7 or 8% stamp duty on purchase. And then for foreigners, you've got 2% to 3% on the land tax per annum, in addition to whatever the state taxes are, which can vary between 0.3 and 2%, depending on, say, on which state you're in.
Foreigners pay more.
Foreigners pay 2% on, basically, they pay a 2% land tax every year.
Okay.
So for Indonesia, there is we call land tax, land and building tax ya. Kalau pajak bumi bangunan is 1.5% from the taxable value. For example, property 5 billion rupiah or $500. The yearly annual property tax is $612.5.
So I'd like to explain about the Korea. Korea also has the acquisition tax, property tax, and the capital gain taxes. For acquisition tax, it's mostly more or less 1 to 3% for housings. But for Koreans, those who have that many houses, is the acquisition tax is much becoming higher. But for the foreigners, there is no different rate because government does know that the foreigner how many has the houses. So some Chinese investors they take advantage in terms of the acquisition tax, and property tax is the 0.07% to 5%, and there are another one is progressive integrated progressive taxes for the local people, but basically property tax they apply that, and there is capital gain tax is a little bit higher than much higher. It depends on that how big amount investor gains. So it depends on that the amount of that the capital gains. Tax rate will be different. And that's the system in Korea. So most of the Korea, they applies that the tax system for the investors, not only for the Korean, but also foreign investors. And also one of the advantages is that for the foreigners, there is no requirement to stay longer or shorter, whatever. So in terms of the staying, there is no requirement. So even the tourists they can buy, but there is they have to submit the approval of the money transfer about or something. So and also they have to register at least that in the immigration. So as long as that the foreigner has that registration number and they have approved that the money transfer. So he can buy that not only just land but also houses in Korea.
Yeah, so this is something about our annual property tax. Any other contribution? Yes, please.
Yeah, in the Philippines, the percentage is computed not on the fair market value, but what we call assessed value. No, so 1% for land. If your land is located in the urban area, if it's in rural area, it's 0.5% of the assessed value. Now, there's a qualification on improvements. No? In improvements, it depends on the type of improvement, whether it's residential, commercial, industrial, and other special purpose improvements. It ranges from 15 to 100% as far as assessed value is concerned. Now, again, our basis in computing the annual property tax is on the assessed value, which is lower than the fair market value. In addition, we pay also 1% special education fund to provide education in the country. This is also paid annually. So it doesn't differentiate whether or not you're a Filipino or foreigner. You pay the same form of annual property taxes annually in the Philippines.
Yeah.
For India, the property taxes are there, vary from state to state. And it's on a higher side. Comparing with Thailand, it's on a higher side. I don't have the specific rate to share, but it varies from state to state.
So I heard that in India, the land, we need to certify the land ownership very tediously because a lot of complication. Maybe they hold it for a long time and so many people claim to be the owners or something. So if you want to buy land in India, what is the land system? How to have the land title system or something? This may be interesting for those who want to buy properties in India.
I have an ancestor's land in India and still not be able to properly claim because it's been occupied by other people.
Oh, I
So
see.
this is a challenge in India. Yes.
So there may be a little complication. Yeah. But in some country, they also have tribal land, minority people land. Is that also happen in Malaysia or not, sir?
Yes, in Malaysia, we have we call the reserve land, and also some we call the native land. It's only meant for the locals. So as a foreigners cannot buy the reserve land, especially the forest reserve, mining reserve land. They cannot buy the native land. And there's also a threshold of price. I think Dr. Sopon just shared. So the low cost houses that is built for public housing, and also the what do you call the affordable house for the local poor people, the foreigners cannot buy. So as a threshold, in Malaysia, any property below 1 million ringgit, about 230,000 US dollar, the foreigners cannot buy the price of these properties. Yeah.
The origin is in Australia, sir.
Yeah, like a break.
There's no real ownership rights attaching to the Aborigine, other than they have designated areas which are very much they tend to be out in the desert, so it's not exactly a place where you'd be building too much real estate. So no, there's no issues like that. I think the only issue that you can probably relate to is the fact that in the early mid 80s, the Japanese became the major investors into Australia, and it was that point that they used the Foreign Investment Review Board to effectively control the sale of existing houses to foreigners. So you are not allowed to buy an existing house in Australia unless you are going to knock it down and subdivide it and create two dwellings. So there are quite strict regulations with regards to foreigners buying real estate in Australia. You actually have to get an approval to buy before you actually contract to buy. So if you want to, it's not a potentially quick process. So if you see something you want to buy, then you have to lodge an application with the Foreign Investment Review Board, which can take 30 to 40 days to come through. And if you don't do that, then you risk of fines and potentially having to sell the property again. So there are some quite strict rules.
Oh, really interesting. So if we buy a big house in Melbourne or somewhere and they burn it, and then we will be no more house, and then we subdivide into two, so we can build a new houses. So it is no problem. Very smart. I will do that. But in the a moment ago, in the US, you also have a red Indian land. Red Indian land, and they also be able to use it for casino. What is your opinion on this?
These are Native Americans.
Huh? Native, yeah,
And they're rich now.
they are really rich.
Very-
No problem now. Yes, sir. Professor.
Yeah. I like to ask that, I mean, request Dr. Sopon to, if he has a chance to make something report in terms of the property tax. Because each country has to tax the property tax based on that, some country based on that market value, some other countries the assessed value. Each country has a different system. So what's the, I mean, that the probably we could categorize which country has that the tax that the tax on market value, and also some countries on that assessed value. And one thing in Korea, all the times one dispute among that the Korea, they use that the assessed value. So there is the controversial issue is that what's the percentage of the assessed value of the market value is very important. Is because sometimes market value is 100, but assessed value is 30, sometimes 40, 50, 60, something. Each country has a different percentage of the assessed value out of the market value. So some other time, if Dr. Sopon analyze that kind of the survey, it will be quite interesting topics to understand that different countries. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And do you have also some Kokurayo land? I mean, because in the I saw from the series, the Korean series, you have a Kokurayo empire. Do you know Kokurayo? ในหนังเกาหลีอะโคคุริโย Korea
Empire.
I see
It's like all the old
Korean,
history. Yeah, Korean Empire is a old history. So, but not only just Korean, but also foreigners, the restrict by the military zone land and agricultural land, forest land. But if you cultivate, it's okay. But if it doesn't cultivate the agricultural land and the forest land are not allowed. That's not only just a foreigner, but also Korean also are not allowed to buy the agricultural land and the forest land. But there is no like the Korea, something.
I see. That is in ancient time already. Oh, I see. But as I asked about the property price, as in Bangkok, you may buy a condominium at around 6 million baht. 6 million baht, maybe less than 200,000 US dollar. What about in Hong Kong? How much normally a foreigner buy? Not by regulation, but typically when you want to buy a house in an apartment in Hong Kong, how much money normally you have to pay? Market price.
There is no,
At least.
as everybody know, Hong Kong accommodation is very expensive.
Oh.
Land and the unit is expensive. I would say for a family of 4 persons, maybe 10 million Hong Kong dollars up.
So
Depends
maybe,
on the location.
Around 30 million baht only daily.
If US dollar, well, talk about Hong Kong dollar, say 10 million is
400,000.
4 times of Thai baht,
See.
say around that. But our property price is dropping from the in the last 3 to 4 years, down about 20 to 25%.
Wow, why?
Well, it's complicated problem.
Complicated. Oh, I see.
And also the world economy, okay, and the money is going out. So the people are migrating out, they're selling.
Oh.
So that's why the property price is coming down.
So should we buy?
No, not now.
Oh, not now, no. Okay.
But I like to supplement the information that you mentioned about 30% compared to 60% in Singapore, that the buyer has to contribute to the government. And start from December last year, that policy revert to normal, that there's no more 30% control.
Maybe because of the government of China.
No, it's as I said, it's complicated and interrelated of certain policy.
I see.
And also the economical and social factors all come to make us one. And the reason for we introduced that 30% rather than now is no more 30% application was because about 10 years ago, the property prices surged up very quickly. And Hong Kong is small, and that make the rental price, because if the property price increase, the rental price will increase and affected local populations, the financial situation. And a lot of people, the living environment becomes congested, and the unit in the city, the average size is about, the lowest maybe 18 meters square. Can you believe it?
Oh, 18 for where? How many people though?
Well, you can squeeze as many as you can.
Oh,
But that is unhuman. So that's why all the policies comes in, and for foreigner, if you buy that, you have to pay for certain amount in several grades, and the bank will assess and will not loan you more than 50%. So that suppress the demand side, and that will subsequently affect the supply side.
I see.
But in Hong Kong, we have quite a good public housing system. Well, of course, different from Singapore. They have more than 80% live in public housing, but Hong Kong, we have about 50%. So that will stabilize the living environment. But that is the housing market is a combination effect.
I see. In Hong Kong, you said half. In Singapore, they said 80% of the houses built by the Housing Development Board, HDB. But in Thailand, it is less than 1%. What about in Indonesia, sir? The government housing is very low.
Low percent.
I see. Low, very low. Because cinemas already built a lot. He's a big billionaire. What about in Hong Kong, in Korea, sir? What is the proportion of public housing built by the government compared to the private sector?
I don't know exactly the percentage, but it's a lower, very low, not that it's much higher. But because I think less than 10%, something like that.
Philippines?
Yeah, it's still low, no? We have socialized housing, but public housing as interpreted in Hong Kong and Singapore, so we have very low investment in public housing, especially in the Philippines. We have 6 million homeless Filipinos. So our backlog is very huge. So that is something that the country should invest in the coming years, public housing.
India, sir? India?
India, there is a what we call a society flat. Means they form a society, and the society develop in India. It's a condominium apartment, but in India it's called flat, and only the society members are eligible to buy. So this kind of scheme is quite common in every state in India.
See, USA maybe no government don't build anything.
Yeah. A lot of we have a lot of slumlords. We have a lot of private ownership in public housing, so it's privately owned and subsidized by the government.
Oh, yeah, really interesting. And anything from Australia, sir? And any?
No, only probably at the state level, but there wouldn't be any federal housing, rental housing So individual states, depending upon their housing need, but no, a very small percentage, I would imagine, of the total.
Yeah, so not much complication on this. And another question is about the estate tax or inheritance tax. So far as I know, in the case of Japan, our colleagues from Japan cannot come, but he told me that there is a ladders of estate tax or inheritance tax. Say if you have your dad give you land, if it is worth say less than 10 million, maybe you pay very little. But if it is above 150 million baht, say 150 million baht, maybe around 3 million US dollar. If it is 3 million US dollar, the one that above the estate tax is 55%. 55%. Say in Niseko ski resort area, we went there to conduct valuation for investors. They bought it, and if they give it to their children later on in the next 30 years or something, if the price is 200 million baht, the 50 million baht from 150 to 200, they have to pay tax 50%, 50. That is like a robbers. They rob our money somehow. That is in Japan. That is really high. But what about inheritance tax or estate tax in other countries? Maybe we start with USA. In the case of USA, what is but that should be vary from state to state. But at least what is the typical amount that they get, because they have paying estate tax for the state government and also for the federal government if it is higher to some extent. What happened in the US? Mr. Clayton, wait, please.
Yep. Yeah, it varies from state to state. It can go from anywhere from 18 to 40%. Yes. And there's no federal inheritance tax. We don't have that, but there are some states that do charge an inheritance tax. That inheritance tax ranges from 12 to 19%. Foreigners residing in the United States must pay the same tax requirements as American citizens. And some states may tax foreigners on inheritance from foreigners.
I see. Yeah, I have a client who is a Thai, but he went to the family went to stay in the US for 40 years already. Now they are US citizen. Unfortunately, I'm not. He is a US citizen, and recently want to sell a house in Romredi somewhere in Romredi, in the hub of the city. The house may worth around 300 million baht. Yeah, that 300 million baht, they are subject to pay tax as well. Yeah. So that is capital gain tax. But if they transfer to their children or something, they also have to pay tax because they are now considered the citizen of USA. So even your property is in Thailand, you still have to pay some tax somehow. Yeah. But for your information, in Thailand, if your land worth less than 100 million baht, no need to pay tax. 100 million baht on the assessed value, government assessed value. Government assessed value may be 20% or 30% of the market value, depends. There is no AS ratio, assess and sale price. There is no assess and sale price ratio. So this means that your house may be 300 million, 400 million. If it is less than that, you have no need to pay tax. But if it is more than 100 million, you have to pay tax. But if you give to your children every year 20 million, 20 million, 20 million, if within 5 years finish, no need to pay tax either. You see, in Thailand, it is a heaven for you. Come to Thailand. But this is in the US. What about in the case of India, sir?
Dr. Sopon, I like to ask you the question you just shared. It's a little somewhat confusing to me. The inheritance tax below 100 million is tax free. Yes, I know this information. But in case it's a foreigner owning property in Thailand, And does the same rule apply? It's information is a little confusing to me. It applies to Thai ID card, but in case it's a foreigner, some shared to me that it doesn't apply to foreigner. Some shared to me that it includes foreigner as well, owning a property in Thailand.
Yeah, if you are foreigners, like my friend who are already a U.S. citizen, you are entitled to pay U.S. tax.
No, how about the like, let's say a foreigner owning a property in Thailand, and the property passed down to the next generation. The below 100 million, does the same rule apply that is tax free?
Yeah, it's the same.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you invest money here, and the excess value is very low, so you are safe. And even for the capital gain tax, you are also very safe.
Okay. Some shared to me that this does not apply to foreigner. That's why I got confusing.
I see. I will go back to ask the Mr. Alutin this morning. Yeah, Deputy Prime Minister who control the land departments. Yeah. But what about in India, sir? For the inheritance tax?
In India, in inheritance tax, there, but I don't have the information to share. I don't have the figure to share. But as I mentioned that if you are a foreign passport holder, you cannot buy farmland, agricultural land, and farmhouse. But if you happen to be a foreign passport holder and you inherit this kind of land, which you are not allowed to buy, you can inherit if it's inheritance. If it's a farmland, agricultural land, farmhouse, you can inherit. Let's say an Indian citizen who moved outside India and he given up Indian passport, he become US citizen or British citizen, and he inherit those kind of properties, is allowed. Yes. Because like me, I'm an OCI holder. OCI means overseas country of India. I'm a Thai ID card, Thai passport, but I'm OCI. I'm entitled to buy property in India, even I'm living in Thailand. But I cannot buy farmland, agricultural land, and farmhouse. But I can inherit. It's if my ancestors own a farmland, I can inherit, but I cannot buy. Yes.
Can I be your like a step brother or something so I can buy land in India? What about in the Philippines, huh?
In the Philippines, it's one of the countries which is very ideal for people to die. No, because we have one of the lowest estate tax. We pay straight 6%. We abolished the graduated rate mentioned by Dr. Sopon, whereas you pay from 10 to 50% depending on the value of the net estate. In our country, we abolished that system. No, so straight 6%. Regardless if you're a foreigner or a Filipino, we have one of the lowest estate taxes in the world. So that's one way for you to consider the Philippines if you want to rest perpetually, no, because we have one of the lowest estate taxes in the entire world.
I see. Korea, sir. What was Eric?
Yeah, Korea also has inheritance taxes, and the tax will be differentiated from the how much they just inherited to their children or to the wife. There is a very different ratio of the inheritance tax that it depends on the amount, but this time is a big controversial issue about the inheritance tax. There's some government will increase the total amount of the inheritance tax. So it's they're going to change, but there is some deduction. Increase the deduction for children that Dr. Sopon mentioned about that every year just they inheritate that inheritate to their children, but there is a limit amount for 10 years. So not like the Thailand, there is a limitation to inherit to their children for 10 years. And also there is a special deduction for the long-term holdings. So if you hold the land or houses long-term, there is a deduction. At the same time that some exemption for certain types of the property transfer. So there is a complicated system, but Korea has also the inheritance tax and also transfer tax systems.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. So, but now we come to Indonesia. Sir, you like to say for the whole picture or something? Please.
I think after this session, Mr. Sopon can introduce the whole table for the country that involved in the seminar. Then
Yes, sir.
give information that what is the restriction, what is the price, regulation, how many percent can be sold to the foreigner, and property tax, time to stay, time to ownership, specific government support, and then so after that we can very easy if we want to buy property in Thailand, for example, we can very easy to see what is the condition, yeah, and then for government also can be a tool for improve, yeah, their easiness to sell to the foreigner, yeah. So it's, I think you can start to develop this comparison table, something like that, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we will try to do this and send to back to you so that you have some comparison case in this. What about in the case of before Australia, my senior, Hong Kong first, inheritance tax?
Dr. Sopon, this is very simple question for me. There is no inheritance tax.
Wow, it is a heaven. Hong Kong is a heaven for us.
Yeah, but I doubted all of our friends here. When a person inherits certain property, once you transfer the ownership from your grandfather who passed away, so what would be the cost for that? That would be the basic issue for the owner transfer. In Hong Kong, we don't have the inheritance tax. So when you buy, as a normal case, you pay stamp duty, you pay some tax, and annually government will charge you according your status. If you are a company, you will apply, and the government will charge you tax as a follow the company's rules. But as an individual, you have income tax. But what are the difference among our countries? That is my question. So as I said, it's not a straightforward answer because you have several systems to form the legislation, ordinance, and then every individual bureau and department, they have their own ordinance to follow. So that as an investor, what you concern is how much you are paying for certain activities.
I see. So we go to buy properties in Hong Kong. Now the price is down. Yeah, buy two.
Not yet.
Not yet. Very frankly speaking, my brother is really great. Yes, President Tan Kian Un, please.
Same thing in Malaysia. We don't have inheritance tax. We had that, and we abolished that in year 1991. So it's very similar to Hong Kong. If you inherit a property, you don't have inheritance tax. But the transfer of the property, the stamp duty is still incurred. So in Malaysia, if you are transferring from a husband to wife, you don't have to pay a stamp duty. The father to the child, the parents to the child, you don't have to pay. But if you are inheritance from a non-immediate family, then you have to pay the stamp duty, but not the inheritance tax. So it's just like you are buying a property, so you have to pay the stamp. We call it the memorandum of transfer.
I see.
It's very similar to Hong Kong.
Maybe this is like a UK system or something. What about in Australia? It should be the same.
Exactly the same.
Oh, I see. So no need to speak anything more.
Exactly the same.
Wow. Yeah. For your this is the
Colonial era.
oh, the colonial, yeah, at that time. So
Indonesia also doesn't think about the heritage tax, but like you mentioned that in the price of housing 125,000, there is no pay tax, yeah, no pay yearly tax.
I see. This is very Interesting indeed. Yeah. So, any question from the floor? Yes. Kindly come up here. Jump a walk. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Introduce yourself from Norway or somewhere.
I work for leading the lesson companies. Thank you for giving me this chance. I have
Microphone.
question.
Yes.
What? The gentleman, yeah. Okay. So, sir, you mentioned earlier that a property has to be approved for purchase, and that someone should talk with the government agency to have that property approved to be purchased. My question is, can a broker do that? If a broker or a developer sees potential for a property, can he do that on the basis of finding a potential buyer?
Ultimately, what you can do is, if you're a developer, you can register. You can pre-register. You can pre-register the project for 100%, assuming it's a condominium, for 100% foreign ownership. So it's pre-approved. Then the buyer can come along and can buy it, but they still have to report the purchase to the FIRB, and they have to provide certain information about their source of funds, so that they're not money laundering, etc. So that's the only way you can preempt. Only the buyer can make the application for, and it's normally in the contract. You would sign an agreement subject to getting the FIRB approval. But there is a way to get a pre-approved project and sell off the plan up to 100%, unlike Thailand, which is 49.51, except the Eastern Seaboard. But so that's basically how it would happen.
I see. Any other questions so far? Any other question? This is the very great opportunity. Another great opportunity is that today we plan to have our lunch at 12:30, but we will have lunch earlier so that we have time for talking with each other, getting to know each other, and we come back again at around 3 o'clock. 1:30, okay? But we will stop at around before lunch. Any questions so far? Doctor? Yes, sir. You have, and yes.
I just wanted to mention, for anyone that's thinking about investing in property in the United States, you're obviously going to be concerned about the capital gains taxes there. And the average citizen in the United States, the majority don't pay any more than 15%. And if you're a foreigner and you sell your property, they have a FIRPTA, which is the Foreign Investment in Real Property Tax Act, in which when you sell your property as a foreigner, they will take 15% of the sales price. Okay, not the gains, but the actual sales price.
15% of the sale price.
Yes.
You are rob us. You rob us.
No. We're just holding it for you. We just want to make sure that you file your tax return and you pay for any any taxes that are owed to you. So that money will be returned to you, whatever is, say, for example, you don't have 15% in capital gains, you have only 10%. The government will return 5% to you. And there are ways of getting what they call a withholding certificate, and you can either lower that amount or you can actually eliminate it. So it's actually pretty easy and straightforward if you want to invest in properties in the United States. Thank you very much.
One moment. Okay, so there will be one last question. Who? Yes, please, Matt.
Yeah, this is addressed to Dr. Sapon. Also, after knowing everything about the questions about taxes and estate taxes, if we have an investor who has $100 million, which now do you think is the best place to park our investors fund or the money that we can bring to any countries as a consultant or advisor to these investors.
Thank you. I will answer your question midnight. I mean, afterwards, because right now our Mr. Ignesjz from Indonesia need to travel back